Okay, so we've already talked about three specific types of strategic alliances, that is joint ventures, equity strategic alliance and non-equity strategic alliances. We're going to have a look at two further categories of strategic alliance now. And the first of them is a diversifying strategic alliance. Now this can include any number of joint venture or equity or non-equity strategic alliance, but this is any strategic alliance where firms share some of their resources and capabilities to diversify into new product or market areas. So it's when firms are branching out into areas or industries or markets that they previously did not exist and compete in before. It allows firms to expand into these new product or market areas without completing a merger or acquisition, which are quite expensive and certainly very risky, given the high level of capital requirements involved in completing a merger or acquisition. So it allows you to go into these new markets without having to completely buy out a whole new company. They also provide some of the potential synergistic benefits of a merger or acquisition, but with less risk and greater levels of flexibility, as I touched on, and also permit sort of a test of whether a future merger would benefit both parties. So you might identify an industry that you're considering going into, but you're not quite sure, not at least not 100% sure, as to whether it is the best option for you to enter into that industry with another company or by buying and purchasing another company. So you might enter it, at least initially, through a strategic alliance to sort of test the waters to see whether you do like that industry and whether you can make money from it. If you can, then you might go a step further somewhere down the track and actually engage in a merger or an acquisition to fully enter into that market yourself. We can also have synergistic strategic alliances, which is where firms share some of their resources and capabilities to create economies of scope. Now, these alliances create synergy, hence the name, across multiple functions or multiple businesses between partner firms. A good example here that we have of a synergistic strategic alliance is the Renault and Nissan collaboration. That seeks to create economies of scope by sharing their resources and capabilities to develop manufacturing platforms that can be used to produce both Renaults and Nissans. So these cars here, we have the Nissan X-Trail on the left and the Renault Koleos on the right. Underneath those very different looking bodies, they are actually exactly the same car. Underneath, most of the mechanical aspects of these vehicles are exactly the same. And that has come about as a result of the development of economies of scope by these two companies, Renault and Nissan. They've gone into a synergistic strategic alliance to help develop platforms and other parts of the cars between those two companies. As you can imagine, and we've already touched on throughout covering most of these different types of strategic alliances, there are many benefits associated with them. And to sort of summarise there, and we're talking specifically here about alliances with benefits, definitely not that terrible movie starring Mila Kunis and friend JT. They can, first of all, provide a new source of revenue. 25% or more of a firm's sales revenue is often made up of that revenue from its strategic alliances. So it is clearly a significant source of revenue that you simply could not get, obviously, if you were on your own as a firm. They can be a vehicle for firm growth, even if it is, as we touched on the previous slide, just enabling you to sort of dip your toe in the water and to sort of sample an industry with an eye to further on engaging in mergers or an acquisition somewhere down the track. They also enhance the speed and depth of responding to market opportunities, technological changes, as well as global conditions, and also allow firms to gain new knowledge and experience to increase competitiveness that they simply could not achieve on their own. And that's probably the big one, that you can do things as part of a strategic alliance that you simply could not achieve as an individual firm. We're going to look over the next few slides and the next video at other types of cooperative strategies apart from your strategic alliances.